Hi, everyone, and welcome to Asking Equality. My name is Christy, and today I'm talking to Nicole Nightingale, who is an intuitive and holistic eating coach. And this is something that I've been wanting to get to know more about for a long time, not just for dieting reasons, but because I want to know more about just my relationship with food and how to make it make me feel better. Um, Anyways, I have a lot of questions, and she has a lot of answers, so let's get into it. All right, and let's get going. Hi.
Hi,
I'm so excited to be on with you.
I'm excited to be here. Very
Yay!
excited.
Okay, well, just to get us started, can you explain like what is intuitive or like as you call it holistic eating? Like it's not just a diet fad, like it's actually like it's a whole different thing, correct?
Yeah. So it's essentially eating as close to nature as possible. So ditching the packaging, ditching the cans, and just eating whole foods.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you do you do it because like I mean, it's not just to like lose weight, it is like because like it's health and like and things like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just our bodies identify food. It doesn't identify food like products.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have, once you start eating a lot of food like products, you have inflammation within the body. And that's where you're seeing headaches and digestive upset and irritability.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, could you describe your journey into finding like how to do this for yourself and how you maintain this for yourself?
Yeah. So it started forever ago. Basically, as like a kid, I struggled with issues from constipation to diarrhea, and the doctors were just like, oh, it's IBS. Fast forward a couple of years, they're like, you have eating disorders. Fast forward a couple of years, they're like, there's nothing wrong with you. Saw multiple doctors, 12, 10, 10, 12 by the end of it, something
Mhm.
crazy like that.
Wow.
And I was in Seattle near the end of my journey here. I was in Seattle with a friend, and she was like, you need to go back to the doctor. She's like, this is not normal. Like, you shouldn't be vomiting after eating. You shouldn't be experiencing like any of these things after you're done eating. And I'm like, I shouldn't? Like, this isn't normal? She's like, no, no, it's not normal. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I went back when I got back from Seattle. I went back to the doctor and I sat there and I was like, I'm not leaving until you tell me what's wrong with me because, like, there's something wrong with me. So it turns out that it's a wheat allergy. He said that he wouldn't be surprised if it was full blown celiac, but because of the testing that was at the time, everything was coming back inconclusive or negative. So, yeah, so anyway, with the doctor, I was also working with a naturopath, and between the two of them, they got me back on track. And I didn't realize how much of what I was eating was directly contributing to my issues. Like,
Okay.
it was mind blowing. Honestly, I couldn't believe it on how much I was eating that was literally making me sick.
Was it just because of the wheat, or was it because of like the processed foods and things like that?
Well, my diet was sad prior to this. So I mean that in both like very sad and then the acronym SAD, which is just your standard American diet, which I it goes across the board, right? So it's not just in America. I'm in Canada and I know that you're in the States, so we have very similar foods, right? So it's prepackaged, it's processed, heavily processed, and with additives. So a lot of those foods have added gluten and dairy in them. So we are over consuming on a lot of that. And those two foods are like the top triggers for um I lost my train of thought there. Um they're the top two triggers for imbalance in the body.
Okay. And just like in causing inflammation, like not even with celiac, just in general, right?
Yeah, yeah, totally. So like you don't need like yeah, you don't even need celiac, but it's like the digestive upset that people experience, right? Or like the bloating, say like the constipation, the diarrhea, the headaches, the irritability, joint pain, like you name it.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
So, what would you say are the biggest difficulties you find in maintaining this for yourself? Because this isn't like, I mean, yes, you're a coach, but you also do this yourself. So you're practicing what you're preaching.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. When I first started, I spent a lot of time crying in the grocery store actually, because I literally had no idea what to eat because everything that I grew up on had wheat in it. And this
Yeah.
was before I found out I had to even cut out dairy. So I was like, what is happening? Like my entire world has just been like literally thrown upside down and inside out. So
So
it
you're
was,
like, I can't eat anything.
yeah, that's is essentially, yeah. I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll live off of veggies and fruit for a while because I had no idea. But now I know. Now I can have that tomato soup. It's just not necessarily from a can with added wheat, right?
Hmm.
It's with whole foods. So I'm making tomato soup with tomatoes. Not that tomato soup doesn't have tomatoes in it, but like the and the base of it to make it thick is cashews.
Okay.
It gives that creamy texture to it too, right? So it's just and it's experimenting with whole foods, which was it turned out to be really fun. Frustrating, but really fun.
Yeah. But so the other part of intuitive eating that I've been hearing about is not just about the whole foods, but also just like how much you eat. Because I feel like, and I don't know if this is the same in Canada, but I know in the States, like we have a very um prevalent culture of like overeating. I mean, like I grew up in a place where there was buffets everywhere. We went to a buffet every weekend. Like that was our family dinner. And so like I got very accustomed to like not really like yes, like my body would tell me when to stop, but it would also like because it was a buffet, like you had to like you had to try everything.
Yeah.
And so, like, can you go a little bit more into that and how that works?
It's just honoring your body and listening to it. And I think that's one of the biggest pieces that we miss. So
Mhm.
we eat and eat and eat and eat and eat until we're about to explode. But what is that doing for us, right? Like our body has already told us to stop way back here, but we're just like, nope, we're gonna ignore. So when I work with my clients, I teach them how to do that. We keep journals and we keep logs and identifying when they're craving certain things throughout the day and what they can replace that with.
Okay.
So
Is
like,
it sorry, keep going.
no, that's okay. I was just gonna say, so say like that mid-afternoon dip after lunch, right? Where we get really like drowsy and we're like, oh, nap time. So I'm just gonna go and eat this bag of chips. Well, you could, the crunch is what's gonna wake you up. So you could actually grab carrots and celery,
Mhm.
right? Or a crunchy cucumber.
Yeah, like how do you feed the need without
Yeah,
you can pick like a healthy choice for that need?
yeah. And like apples, those are another great one. They're crunchy, right? So and you're alerting yourself at the same time while you're fulfilling that need for a snack.
Right. What about because I know that like when you're craving sweets, like it actually means you're craving magnesium or something, I think, or like are those kind of like uniform across the board for everybody? Like, because I feel like everyone has these cravings,
Yeah.
and like and so like when you're craving one thing, it actually means another thing. Like, does it mean that other thing for everyone, or is it just like, or is that like different for each person?
Pretty much. We're all essentially depleted in magnesium, for example.
Mhm.
So, and with a magnesium deficiency, you're going to see headaches, you're going to see that digestive upset, you're going to feel blah, right? You're not going to have good sleep. Um, yeah, there's just a lot. So, and foods that are high in magnesium too are like dark chocolate. Eat the chocolate. Not milk chocolate, but dark chocolate.
Mhm.
Yeah. And let's just say like a sugar craving, that's your body telling you that you're needing protein.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So instead of going for that like cup of ice cream or that huge ice cream cone or what have you, you're actually needing protein.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, with this intuitive eating, like, and the holistic eating, like, with whole foods and also just like with the idea of listening to your body, is it something that only people with serious health issues should look into? Or do you think it's something that could benefit everyone, like that everyone should look into at some point?
Oh, 100%. This can help anybody and everybody.
Okay. But your
Yeah.
clients tend to come to you for like health issues, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Predominantly like digestive upset, but I have worked with other clients with other needs. So,
Mm-hmm. Okay. But I mean, like this is something that I don't know if, well, I guess like it would be something I could talk to you with, like just the idea of like how long it took you to figure this out. Because I feel like years and years going to doctors and like, I mean, you went through over a dozen. Like it shouldn't be that hard.
no, it really shouldn't. And I think advocating for oneself is the biggest part of this. And if you know that something is wrong, looking to the alternative isn't going to make you like woohoo, if you will.
Right.
Because a lot of people think that, oh, if I go to like a holistic or more natural route, it's not going to actually get me anywhere, or the doctors are the only answer, when in reality, you can work with both the holistic option and your doctor and get
Mhm.
great results.
And I mean, and also like I just want to clarify, like this isn't necessarily like, it's not like veganism. It's not like you have to
No,
like cut out like these things. Like it's purely like, listening to your body and seeing what it really needs.
yeah, yeah, totally, totally. So when I work with my clients too, we do a nutritional intake, and then within that, I see which body systems are out of balance. And then I give them food recommendations based off of that on how to support those body systems. And sometimes I do recommend cutting out certain foods just for a small period of time just to see how they're feeling.
Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, like with that in mind, that I know we talked about this briefly before, but I told you about the food pyramid that we have here in the United States. That
Yeah.
I think it's kind of being like, it's kind of being phased out, but it's still like, it's still, especially like I don't know if it's if it really like ends in my generation, or like, or when it like is really being phased out, but like, it's something that I still like internally like reference, like just unconsciously.
Mhm.
Like I try to get certain, well, it's supposed to be like 5 to 6 servings of grains, I think, and then like 2 to 3 servings of vegetables, and two and like 1 to 2 servings of fruits, and like I don't even remember what the rest of it is.
Yeah.
I honestly like I don't eat that much in a day.
Right?
So it's like what like I so what's our question? Like just, with that in mind, I guess, like what how do people like, I guess, go from that to this? Like what is, I mean, like is that even relevant?
I don't work off of the food guide. No.
Okay.
Um because everybody's different. You can't just write up like one plan for everybody because it's only going to maybe work for one or two out of that entire group, right?
Mhm.
So this is looking at a person as an individual, not as like in a group setting. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like, because it's just not a one size fit all. So let's just say veganism, for example, it's not a one size fit all. There are some people that genuinely need that animal protein and that animal fat in their diet. Keto, for example, that's another one that's like the huge craze, right? Everyone's wanting to try keto because it's going to help me lose weight, it's going to do this, it's going to do that, but it's not good for everybody. So I don't encourage, when I work with my clients, I don't encourage them at all to focus on one uh one avenue or one aspect, because it may not work for them. And they'll get disappointed, right? And they'll be like, well, this doesn't work. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Wait, what about those who want to look at like intuitive eating as like a diet? Because like I feel like a lot of people like that's why a lot of people turn to these fad diets because like that is their goal. Like they want to or they need to lose weight.
yeah,
And so would this work for that or is that something you like discourage?
totally. It can totally help
Okay.
because you're listening to your body, right? When it says, "Oh, I'm full," we're not wanting to eat until we're at 100% capacity, right? We're wanting to eat until you're like 80%, until you're like just feeling good enough. But identifying that's like one of the hardest parts because I
Got
feel
it.
like a lot of people, I'm guilty of this sometimes too. We eat our feelings. It's just like our number one go-to, right? So if we can break that and identify that that's what you're doing, you're going to see so much more success in the long run that yeah, you'll be like, how is this even working?
Yeah.
But you're right, like it's yeah.
Okay. So, I guess like with that in mind, what does I think you touched on it a little bit, what does coaching with you look like? Like what is it? How does when someone comes to you, what does that process look like and how and what can they expect from your coaching practice?
I have a very flexible approach to it, so I can customize to whatever somebody is needing. So if you're needing more support, like meeting on like a weekly basis and like an every couple day check-in, I can totally do that. Or if you're just wanting the information and you just go for it, then I can totally do that too. But typically it'll start off with a bit of a conversation, right? Getting to know you, trying to figure out like where your struggles are at, and then I send you the intake, and then you fill it out, and then I work on it for a couple days because it's a lot to go through, and then I send out my recommendations from there, and then give you kind of options. The most common one though is the 6 week program that I have. So we get together, we start cleaning up the diet. I use that word so lightly, but I feel like it's also like the most fitting. So it's the diet that we're cleaning up. So we're getting rid of all of those processed foods and we're making sure that you're eating quality foods, drinking enough water, working through um, and identifying your fullness scale, all that goodness. There's just so much that we go
Mhm.
over in 6 weeks. And at the end of the 6 weeks, a lot of people are like, I actually everybody that I've worked with, they've just said, I can't believe how good I feel.
That's amazing.
Yeah. They're like, I have so much more energy to get through the day. My sleeping is so much better. And it's just their overall mental clarity too. Like the brain fog is gone. It's awesome. I love it.
That's great. I have a couple questions that popped up.
Yeah.
So, I let's start with this one. Is this holistic eating, intuitive eating? Is it something that a doctor will recommend, or is it something that people just have to like voluntarily look for?
I have known doctors that do
Okay.
recommend and or support. So it's not unheard of. Um, I guess it really depends on the doctor.
Okay.
Yeah. Because my doctor, before he retired, he was fully on board with everything. He was on board with sharing all the blood work and everything between him and my naturopath and vice versa. So it was awesome. So finding a doctor like that I think is like a gem.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just curious because like this isn't it's not new like this isn't new medicine. This isn't new thinking.
No, it's not.
So like it makes me wonder like just why it isn't more I guess like talked about more prevalent. I mean, like, yes, like I feel like, they push eating more whole foods or eating more organic foods, like things like
Mhm.
that. But, at the same time, it's like a lot of times they're also just prescribing medicine.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I'm not bashing doctors by all means because, like, I mean,
Right.
there's a time and a place for everybody. So their training is with prescriptions, right?
Mhm.
Where our like my training is just with food,
Okay.
food and supplements, but predominantly food.
Okay. And I wanted to also touch on this because you talked about how this is, very much about whole foods and things like that.
Yeah.
Do people tend to, I guess this is a question that comes up like, um, especially with people like who live in large cities where like access to those like fresh whole foods isn't necessarily as like, it's not as easy to like get that. And so like it can be like way more expensive, or is that something that you have found you can get around, or like how
You
does that?
can totally get around it. So like I know here in my city they have multiple programs. Um so the one is with the one grocery store actually. They have these, it's almost expired food, but like I mean if you're going to be using everything up really quickly, then
Okay.
you can totally, it totally works. But they're $5 for a box of
Okay.
food. Like you can't go wrong with that. And you get like a mix mash of everything. So you don't, the only downside to that is that you don't get to pick. But
Okay.
the upside to that is that it kind of makes you think outside the box and like look up new recipes to see what is there out there. So like if people have never eaten an eggplant before, they're like, what do I have? Like, what do I do with this? Right? They get to experience and like experiment on a new recipe and go outside their comfort zone, which is super awesome. Because we all should be like, there's so much food out there. We shouldn't just be stuck on eating the same 10 foods, right? Like our grocery list should be looking just a little bit different every time, or your grocery cart, sorry. Um, and then the other program that they have here is, it's called the Good Food Box. I don't know if that's something that's there.
Um, we have, it's not a program, but there is a service here called Imperfect Foods where they actually like they take all the produce that gets rejected from the
Right.
grocery store, and they actually like they put them into produce boxes and you can buy them that way.
Yeah, and there's literally nothing wrong with them. They just look different and they don't look
Right.
aesthetically appeasing, right? But like
Like you
it's
get like
good food
double-headed
stuff.
carrots and things like that. It's fine.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
just cut them up and like no one will ever know.
right? It
Yeah.
tastes the same, it looks the same, and it's gonna cook the same. So what difference does it make what it actually looks like prior? Obviously, if it's not rotten, but like, yeah,
Right.
yeah. But the Good Food Box, they have, it goes by pound. I haven't looked into it in a while, but it's, at one point it was like 20 pounds of, or wait, 15 pounds of food
Wow.
for $20. It was a subsidized program through another program. Anyway, but yeah, it was like, it's a good deal, really good deal. It's not organic, but like I mean, if produce is something that's important to people, right? Then let's get them eating. Let's get them eating whole foods as a
Yeah.
start.
Yeah,
And
I love I
relatively cheap.
like yeah, no, I mean, like, me personally, what I do is I actually, I scour the, I don't know if you get these in Canada, but we get, like, adverts or, like, like, newspaper, like, weekly ads for the grocery store, and they tell you what's on sale and what's not, and I generally, like, I grocery shop based on that because, like,
Yeah,
my thought is if it's on sale at the grocery store, it probably means it's in season, and so I essentially, like, I do my grocery shopping based on that.
yeah,
And that's personally how I've been able to not just keep costs down, but just try new things. Like, I mean, like, I have my favorites obviously, but I tend to, like I tend to buy based on what meat is on sale. And then what produce is on sale. And then I build I meal prep out of that.
yeah. And it can be easy. Like it doesn't need to be hard. And I think when we go down this road initially, we overthink and we overcomplicate just
Yeah.
because it's new and that it's just what we do, right? But it doesn't need to be hard.
Yeah. Well, and I think this, I mean, it also kind of goes back to this idea of like advocating for yourself. I think it's like it's more than just like speaking up when a doctor tells you that there's nothing wrong with you. I think it's also like in this like daily practice of, really like advocating for yourself, what you feel, what you need,
Hmm.
and then making choices based on that.
Yeah. And what's normal for one is not normal for another. And that's
Right.
like the biggest takeaway, that if you get nothing else from this, that's just the one thing that I really want to hit home, is that what's good for one is not good for you.
Yes.
So, or vice versa.
Right. No, like we have a very we're very conditioned to want to compare ourselves to everyone else,
Yeah.
which I think is, that contributes to the fad dieting, that contributes to a lot of other things. And especially like in this, like with the intuitive and holistic eating, it's like it's I mean, like it's hard sometimes to understand why someone does one thing and then like, well, why, why can't it work for me? And then it's like if it doesn't, it feels like you failed.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's just that your body is made up differently, and your body has different needs than somebody else, which
Hmm.
is totally okay, because if we were all made the same, how boring would that be?
Right. So, with all that said, how do people get in touch with you and find out more about you and your program and what you have to offer?
My Facebook is naturally Nightingale Nutrition. Might have to write that out for people because my last name is a little crazy to spell.
Okay,
uh,
I'll have it in the show notes for sure.
yeah, and then it's just, yeah, just my Facebook page.
Okay.
Head on over there, check it out, and then if they have any questions, they can just message me through there.
Okay. Awesome. Well, this was so great. Thank you so much for hopping on. I'm glad the baby stayed asleep for our little conversation.
I know he just woke up. I hear him, so
Oh
I'm,
no.
oh,
Okay.
perfect timing.
So I'll let you go take care of him.
Yeah,
Um, Thank you so much, and yeah, we'll definitely be in touch.
yeah, that sounds great. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you so much to Nicole for coming by and chatting with me today. I'm really glad we managed to get all that squeezed in right before the baby woke up. So good on us. Anyways, I am so happy to know that I have some good practices going for me, but I do still have some questions. So I'm gonna go check out her Facebook page. I hope you do as well if you have questions that I didn't ask. And if you just want to know more about Nicole and her program and her coaching, or if you just want to ask her questions about your relationship with food and you want to know more about that, please check out her Facebook page at Naturally Nightingale. And I will also have it linked in the captions and in the show notes and everything. So definitely do that. Thank you for joining me again on Afternoon Equality, and I can't wait to sit with you all again next week. Bye.